John Hess is 6'7". John Hess charges back equally. They just swing for the He's punching him on his back. How did it go to the ground?
Dude, he was elbowing him on his back.
Dropping elbows on his spine. I mean, because you got to imagine, he's way up. He's 6'7", so he's got some leverage coming down.
Welcome to Casual Academy MMA. Join us as we dive deep into mixed martial arts history for every UFC, WEC, Pride, and Strikeforce event. We'll examine the fights and fighters of the past, reviewing the eras, techniques, and revolutions that made our beloved sport the phenomenon it is today. Without further ado, let's watch the fights.
Let's get it on! What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Casual Academy. My name is Nathan Karimi, and as always, I am joined by my cousin and co-host.
What's up? I'm Kevin Zimbelman.
Tonight, we hopped into the MMA time machine once again and traveled back to Charlotte? Charlotte, North Carolina, April 1995 for UFC 5.
The last word in no-holds-barred competition. The Olympics of the martial arts world. The Ultimate Fighting Championship 5.
What'd you think?
I'm trying to think how they first introduced UFC 5. We looked at the arena. We were like, oh, shit, it's actually bigger. Like, this is going to be more of like a spectacle, I think, this time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but I was going in with some high expectations.
I was, too, because we were also hot off UFC 4, which was kick-ass, my favorite so far.
Yeah. And the first fight, though, it actually started off. It met that like tone that we were looking for.
Yeah.
Was Andy Anderson, who was 230 pounds and only 5'6", right?
Yeah.
And he's going up against big man John Hess, 295, 6'7".
Yeah, that fight was crazy.
Yeah. And John is a curator of the Savda fighting style, and I feel like anybody who makes their own fighting style kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So like he's tall as shit and he looks way bigger than the dude, but I'm like, I don't know. I think he's going to lose this. But
well, because dude was jacked. The guy that was 5'6", 230 or whatever. What's his name?
His name was Andy Anderson.
Andy Anderson was kind of jacked, dude.
Yeah, he was.
Kevin even thought he was on steroids because he had what he thought was back knee or whatever, but it wasn't. It was like freckles. But the dude was pretty jacked. We just fucking found out he was 5'6" because they flashed the tail of the tape by hella fast.
Yeah, they did. But that fight was like straight pandemonium.
Yeah,
and
straight pandemonium.
John Hess got the better of the exchanges, and he ended up finishing the fight with like these brutal knees to Andy's head when he was on the ground. And it was a wrap, like pretty early. I want to say within like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
That.
Like a minute and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
It's funny because one of the announcers even said, they were like, this was nothing but fighting. And that was literally it. Like fucking Andy Anderson's the short guy?
Yeah.
Andy Anderson charges John Hess. John Hess is 6'7". John Hess charges back equally. They just swing for the fucking fences. He's punching him on his back. How did it go to the ground?
Dude, he was elbowing him on
dropping
his back.
elbows on his spine. I mean, because you got to imagine he's way up, and he's 6'7", so he's got some leverage coming down. What the fuck was? How did it get to the ground?
I forgot who was it. Like just like kind of brutalized the other one just with like strength.
Oh, he swept. What's his name? Swept.
Oh, and you were like, how did he fall for that bullshit?
Yeah. Swept off. So John Hess charges, gets the dude on top, beats the fuck out of him. Andy Anderson sweeps, and what was he?
John Hess just winds up kind of in almost like a mounted side control and just landed some fucking knees to his head.
Oh yeah,
it's brutal finish.
Yeah. Those knees were terrible.
Yeah.
So
fight number 2.
Well,
do you want to keep going?
Well, just on that one, dude. That's enough. I remember saying during the fight, like, "Wow, this has set the UFC back 5 years."
Oh yeah,
because it looked like there was no difference between that and UFC 1. And otherwise, we're seeing guys learn skill. We're seeing guys pull guard. And not that these guys weren't skilled, but that was like That was most reminiscent of like a bar room fucking kindergarten or like schoolyard brawl.
Oh no, absolutely. There was like no technique in that shit besides like little flashes here and there.
Yeah. So what do we got next?
So fight number 2 is Todd Medina versus Larry Curtin. Todd is a Jeet Kune Do specialist.
Todd Medina is the first fighter in the UFC to represent Bruce Lee's system of Jeet Kune Do.
The Filipino guy, he was really good friends with Chemo and Joe Son.
Joe Son.
And so Todd's 24, 5'10", 260, going up against Larry Curtin, who's like an American kickboxer, 35 years old, 230 pounds, lanky. And Larry actually had 23 wins by knockout. So going into this, after seeing that last brawl, I'm like, oh shit, might get another knockout.
Yeah.
But Larry ends up pulling guard after Todd Medina shot, and Larry tapped after getting that forearm choke to the neck.
Oh, yeah. And we didn't even see it when we were first watching it. They showed it in like slow motion afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. Another one with not a ton of skill, but like more than the last one. Yeah.
Something we've been noticed, I feel like, about these old fights was it's just so grappling. Like, is their main way to want to take the fight in every one.
Yeah, it's funny because the guys will, instead of like lining up in the middle and testing each other with jabs, they skip all the jabbing and they just get there ready to throw. But they're really wrestling. They're really like touching hands and touching heads.
100%.
Yeah, it is. You're right. And that's how this one was. Okay, this fight, nothing.
It was nothing crazy. Something about this event I thought was really interesting was hella people were headbutting.
It's almost like headbutting. It's almost like they reminded them that they could do it.
Right.
Yeah, headbutting was a huge fucking piece of the puzzle. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But fight number 3 is the introduction of Olnik.
My name is Oleg Takhtarov. I'm from Russia.
The Russian guy?
Oh, the Russian guy, yeah.
Yeah, who is like a Sambo champion.
Okay.
27 years old, 205 pounds. And he's going to get up against Ernest, who's it, Verdicia?
Hi, I'm Ernest Verdicia. I'm the fighting paramedic from Miami, Florida. I'm a first-degree black belt in Apache Kempo Karate. All my entourage are licensed EMTs and paramedics, and my opponents are going to need them when I'm finished with them.
And he's a karate expert. I don't even remember this dude, to be honest.
He kind of looked like almost like Mexican guy with like a Fu Manchu. He was pretty good, man. Like
I do remember.
Remember this fight was actually, if you remember this one, it's funny because you said something right afterwards. You were like, I think this guy's going to be in the finals or whatever. And I guess
the Russian guy.
But really, we saw him mostly on his back the whole time. Dude, he was taking shots.
Yeah. And then he got that fucking bulldog choke reversal.
Yeah.
Remember the moment he got like any sort of leverage, he used it and got the submission.
Ronda Rousey would always do it. If
Oh,
you remember,
true.
Don't you remember Ronda Rousey? Oh, were you watching a lot when Ronda Rousey was?
I went back and saw a lot of.
You went back and saw her shit. She
Yeah.
was a bad motherfucker. Ish. Okay. What's next?
The next one is UFC 5 Return of the Beast. So Dan Severn versus Joe Charles.
Joe Charles, is that the black
Joe
guy?
Charles is the guy who's what's his nickname? Ghetto something?
Oh, Ghetto Man. Ghetto Man.
Was it just Ghetto Man?
Wait.
You might be right.
Something crazy.
Jim Brown goes, he fights in a ghetto way.
Yeah, fight the Ghetto Man and fights in a ghetto way.
He's got the ghetto man and he fights in a ghetto way.
Yeah.
And Dan Severn just like fucked him up, bro.
That was a fucking brutal rear naked choke.
Yeah, right.
And Dan Severn, I remember thinking this guy's eyeballs were going to pop out of his fucking head. That was a legit, not even legit, but it was just a brutal rear naked choke.
Yeah. No, absolutely, bro.
This is, I would say from this event, this would almost be the fight I'd say it's worth watching.
Yeah, maybe. I would say so. I was thinking the first one, but you're right. This one actually had like a lot of legit skill and intent to this fight.
Yeah, for sure.
So then we're on to our semifinal, number 1, which is Dave Benito, who's a replacement for big man John Hess.
Dude, there has not been one UFC without a replacement from later rounds.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so Benito versus Todd Medina. And apparently Dave won his first fight in 21 seconds.
21 seconds ground and pound. Real bad ground and pound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess this one ended with Todd Medina's corner getting thrown in after he got mounted.
Okay, yeah.
Landed a couple strikes.
Same thing, just another kind of ground and pound beatdown. Dude, it's funny. Ground and pound is like, that must have been the thing to fear for a while.
Yeah.
Just because, like, when we were watching, that was like, so-and-so is like the king of ground and pound. Always. That's like, that was a strategy. That's not really a strategy anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right. Everybody's just about position.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention, man, it's like ground and pound. Like, how often are you going to
I bet that must be super tiring.
What? The throwing
Ground
of the
and pound?
punches? Or the,
I don't know. Maybe not.
Probably being on top and throwing punches. But you would almost count on guys giving up back then. But it's like, dude, guys are getting out. Like, God, the sport has changed so fucking much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like in the last year or two, it has changed again.
I think so. Honestly, I think a lot of it is like UFC, like fucking Apex and other like institutions like that.
Yeah.
Because they break down shit like crazy in there with the
What do you
tests
mean?
they do. They'll have reaction tests and shit like that.
Yeah.
Imagine if fighters can work on something to test their reactions.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't have that in like fucking 2008.
No,
you know?
no. God, these guys back in the day were just. I mean, Dan Severn's impressive, man. I mean, any way you slice it, Ghetto Man or whatever his name is, was like, God, can you imagine if people didn't know that was his nickname? No, but Ghetto Man, who looked just as pumped up after
They're
losing
gonna clip
that,
that, dude. They're gonna clip that and not address that that was his real nickname.
And what? Yeah, and I don't even know if that was. It was Ghetto something. But even Jim Brown acknowledged it. So
Right.
But no, Ghetto Man was like, he was a good fighter. Kind of.
Yeah, he was solid, dude.
You know, like, dude. I mean, when he was on the ground, it's not like he was. It's not like it was like Dan Severn got on top, ground and pounded, and it was over. No, like he was pushing Dan Severn off and trying to sweep and trying to buck and trying to do everything. You know, Dan was too
Dan's
big.
the man, dude.
Dan's the fucking man.
Dan's the
Dan
man.
Beast. It's a return to the beast after all.
Right. And on to the semifinal, which I thought was going to be the final. It was that Russian dude from earlier, Olnik.
My name is Oleg Takhtarov. I'm from Russia.
Versus the boy, the beast, Dan Severn.
Yeah.
And remember fucking Dan was brutalizing that guy with headbutts when he was trying to go for that armbar?
Oh yeah, when the guy was trying,
Olnik was trying to go for that arm.
Oh, and drop.
And then he was dropping those knees.
We saw that, dude. We saw that one knee where like Dan drops a knee from. Okay, so imagine the guy's got like one of Dan's arms basically in armbar. Dan drops that knee, and we instantly saw blood.
Yeah,
like he broke his fucking forehead open on that shot, dude. Dan beat the fuck out of this dude.
Yeah, man. John McCarthy ended up stopping that fight, right? And Olnik was like still. Like trying, like he was still game.
No,
but Dan was fucking him up.
Russians don't throw towels.
Russian didn't throw no towels in. I think John McCarthy stopped that one.
Yeah,
remember because you're like, this is the first TKO we've seen.
Oh, was that this one? Okay,
yeah.
Dude, no, this was like a good fight. Like it felt like two skilled guys. You know, a lot of times with Royce Gracie, even in some of the finals, it's like, oh, it felt like he caught this guy off guard, or oh, this guy had no idea about jiu-jitsu. This kind of felt like Dan's wrestling was nullifying any jiu-jitsu or nullifying any sambo.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't feel like, oh, this skill set is lacking. It felt like, okay, they might be equal in skill, but Dan's way bigger and stronger, and he's a better fight, and wrestling's just going to
Dan is just so forward, man. Like, doesn't give the opponents any chance at all. Just goes at them.
You see where his legend comes from.
Right.
Wow, that's funny to think about, dude. Dan Severn, guy that I never knew a fucking thing about. This is where the show starts to get interesting, man.
Yeah.
I never knew a fucking thing about Dan Severn other than he was a dude with a dope mustache, not as good as Don Fries.
Yeah, that's very true. That's right. So then after that fight, which was kind of lit, that fight was a fun one.
That was a good one.
We got the super fight between Royce Gracie and Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, and that was super boring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ken just sat in Royce's guard for 30 minutes.
The most interesting
35.
To me, the most interesting part of that fight, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but at one point early on in the fight when they were still standing, Ken just whips.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Whips a punch at Royce that you're just like, if that landed, Royce would have been knocked out cold.
I was thinking Ken really fucking went for it. I didn't see any of the fighters previous with that, like, intention.
No.
Like, that was the hardest, even if it was a whiff, it was like the hardest strike thrown in the whole fight within like 5 seconds.
Yeah, it was either guys like, what's his name? Gerard Gordeau, our boy. No, I'm kidding. Inside joke, you fucking asshole. I don't know who I just called an asshole. But, dude, it felt like guys were throwing shit to set up their grappling.
100%.
Or they were experts and they like knew how to throw like a kick, or they knew how to, they knew when they could throw a punch or a jab. But in terms of just a whipping, swinging, hard knockout punch, I don't know that I'd seen one attempted until Ken throwing that. And it was weird to see because Royce stepped back, got mount, or no, didn't get mount. Ken got him down. And despite the fact that they kept calling it mount, Ken was just in Royce Gracie's guard for literally 36 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. Royce landing some fucking heel. What are those? I don't know, those heel like stabs from the bottom. And Ken just getting these little like shots in while he could.
But busting Royce up.
Fucked him up.
Yeah.
And I was saying this after the fight, even though it was like technically a draw. In modern MMA rules, like Ken won that based off damage.
50-45.
Yeah.
I mean, Ken got the takedown. Royce held guard. Royce literally kicked. I mean, it's crazy. Like, this is where you realize it's a completely and totally different sport.
Right.
And I hate to say this, considering how fucking boring this was for 36 minutes. What they should have done with this fight, I really hate saying this because it would have been torturous. They should have put no time limit on it, and then one of them would be forced to give up, and we find out who it is.
How long do you think that shit would go for?
2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So what? Early days, dude, the whole point of this shit was there was no rules. Dude, the Sullivan Kill Rain fight, 75 rounds. 75 rounds. I keep that poster. That's my favorite gift I've ever gotten. It is a picture. It's not any kind of original, but it's just a picture of the Sullivan and Kill Rain fight. We're about 50 yards behind the ring with a massive audience full of people watching this fight, and the fight went 75 rounds in like 1889 or something.
That's fucking insane.
So I would have liked to see, long story short, I would have liked to see Ken Shamrock go on forever. As long as Fast Forward was invented, I'd be willing to watch that one forever.
And then we're on to the final.
Okay.
We have Dave Bentow, the late fight replacement.
Yep.
Versus Dan Severn.
Okay.
And, Dave got some judo background, but so I thought maybe this would be a little competitive. Nah, who am I tripping? I thought Dan Severn was going to fuck this dude up.
Yeah. I kind of did too, but I do wonder about these guys who, because, I mean, dude, he had that first fight in 21 fucking seconds. That was...
Oh, very true.
That's a big deal, but the guy brought it, man.
Yeah, he did.
The guy brought the heat. I mean, at one point, I thought Dan went down.
Oh, yeah, that inside, like, clinch uppercut?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a hard fucking shot.
Dude, good fight, actually.
But Dan ended up getting that key lock submission.
Yeah. And that's really, man, like, just that key lock thing is really just like a power, like, I'm going to get on top of you, mounted, like a true mount, not what they're calling mount back then, but like mounted, bigger than, stronger than, I will rip your fucking arm off if you don't stop.
Dan ended up winning with the key lock submission, and that was that. That was, I would say, a decent final. I feel like the finals have all been a little bad.
Yeah.
Besides, like, maybe the first couple, but that was good.
The Gracie Shamrock, like, super fight felt like a cop-out.
Yeah.
Why not put Royce back in? It's not like he obliterated Dan Severn.
Right, yeah, that would have been a nice rematch. I don't know. I said this before, and I was like, Royce is like, we always say this is his toughest fight. This is his toughest fight.
Yeah.
And then I think it went from this is his toughest fight to he lost. I think he lost to Ken.
To Ken, if we're just speaking just totally objectively, I would say that Ken won that fight. I mean, he could have blinded Royce Gracie, man. His eye was real fucked up at the end of that.
Yeah.
So then we say Dan, okay, how about this? Let me propose Dan. I think we know Dan wins a rematch to Royce Gracie, too.
I think so.
I think he just, hey, I avoided the triangle for whatever reason, and I learned better ground and pound. Unless Royce grabs an arm. Which we know that's a fucking possibility if you get crazy on Royce.
I wonder if they're going to fight again or not.
I don't remember, man. I don't remember, which is kind of lucky for us that.
No. So this is interesting. Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know how long Royce's reign lasts.
Yeah,
I want to think it's got to be coming to an end soon.
I think it is at its end, man. I mean, I think it's fairly clear that Dan Severn would win. I think that things are going to change in the UFC and that the Gracies are going to go to Japan. This is all based on like stuff that I kind of know, right? We know Royce fought in Pride, some shit like that. We know that, dude, Dan and that rematch, Dan wins. More than likely. What about this? Ken versus Dan. Who would you got in that?
So I want to see that. I hope that happens. I don't know if it does, but I think Dan would win that.
There's something about Dan's style that feels. You know what's funny?
Maybe Ken would get a fucking heel hook on him.
Those wrestlers might. Yeah, Ken might. Ken's a real fighter, man.
Yeah.
Ken's a real fighter. I kind of just feel like we know that Khabib is the best example of it ever. Of just chase, wrestle, smash.
Yeah.
And it seems like an invulnerable style. Like, what can you really do to that? If you're not getting something from the guard, you're not going to sweep Dan and start smashing him.
Right.
You got to knock Dan out or you got to catch a submission on him. And I just see that style beating almost anything right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know? I'm excited to see. I'm actually a little bit more excited to see 6. This almost felt like a transition one where it was like, okay, we needed to correct some of the mistakes from 4.
I could see that. They tried doing something big with the Superfight too.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're going to incorporate little things like that as we go on. But who knows? Maybe that's just the Superfight. But
remember when that announcer was like, last year, Royce Gracie submitted Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock has not lost again or since, except to Royce Gracie.
Yeah.
Something like that. Dude, I guess we should do awards.
Oh yeah, we should do awards.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with fight of the night.
Dude, fight of the night to me, I got to go Dan Severn's championship win.
I think so too.
Because it showed more than just slugging. I would have loved to see Dan with John Hess. What do you got?
No, you know what? Actually, I think Dan's semifinal fight against Olnik, the Russian guy, because he fucked him up pretty bad, and I feel like it was just so much more brutal than the final.
Yeah,
with the knees, with the headbutts. I think that's fight of the night to me.
Okay, I think that's worth. I think there's 3 fight of the night contenders, and I think one of them is John Hess versus his first victim.
True.
Andy Anderson. That was just a brutal, just a man who thought he could not lose, just charging forward.
That actually might be fight of the night. You're right. I forgot about that one.
But that was really fun. But I'm just saying the contenders for it. The second contender, I absolutely think, dude, maybe Severn versus Ghetto Man. But no, Severn's championship and semifinal were both good because we know that both of those guys beat people to get there.
Right.
I just felt like Dan's final fight, like I said, I feel like we almost fucking saw Dan rocked, which was funny.
No. That would have been crazy if he got a knockdown off that shit or something.
Because they don't matter.
Yeah.
Right. What a fucking sport this is back then, dude. What's going on with the pound for pound right now in 1995 at UFC 5? We're halfway through the quote-unquote decade.
Okay. Royce is still number 1 because multiple wins. And he beat Dan, who is in my consideration number 2. And the fact that he beat Dan, I can't put Dan higher.
No, sure.
So Royce is my number 1. I say Dan's 2, and Ken would be 3.